Today, I'm joined by Tom Cowley. He's the Digital Youth and Development Officer at Villa and Proud, the official LGBTQ plus supporters network of the mighty Aston Villa. It's great to have you on, Tom. For those who don't know, can you just give us a little bit of background on who Villa and Proud are?
Yeah, so as you say, we're the official LGBTQ plus supporters network of Aston Villa. So we're set up for fans, players, and staff at Aston Villa, and we aim to basically just make sure that the game is a more inclusive and welcoming environment for everybody, and especially at Aston Villa, because obviously that's where our focus is, and that's where we can kind of push that change. And yeah, we host online and in-person events. We work with the club quite regularly. We've got Birmingham Pride coming up soon, which is really exciting, and obviously we have campaigns regularly like Pride Month and Rainbow Laces. So we've got a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that you work directly with the club. Kind of in what capacity does Aston Villa tend to sort of help out with Villa and Proud?
Yeah, so we're independently run, so we've got our own committee, but we are officially linked to the club through their channels. So we speak with Lucy at Aston Villa, who's the EDI, Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Officer
Yeah.
at Aston Villa, and we speak to her quite regularly. So we're in pretty direct contact, and they'll just help us out with anything that we need, or anything that we collaborate on. But yeah, equally we're quite capable of setting up events and having networking and things like that is run solely with us without needing Aston Villa's input. So it's quite a nice balance that we've got going. They help us out when we need it, and
Mhm.
to be honest, over the last couple of years, that support's just grown and grown. So it's been really nice to see.
Well, that is great to hear. I mean, I've previously interviewed Samuel Timms from Villa and Proud about a year and a half ago. And I remember I took part in a social event that at the time, obviously, during the pandemic, was all online. But now that kind of the world has opened up again, are you sort of running social events in person again on match days? What kind of events are Villa and Proud running?
Yeah, so we've met up quite a few times in Birmingham itself and places like the Loft in the Gay Village.
Yeah.
We're looking at meeting up quite regularly on match days if that's something we can arrange. And depending on numbers, obviously depends on what kind of venues we need. So it's quite flexible, but we do try and make sure we meet up quite regularly, like a lot of the groups around the club do. We've had a few events so far that have been really good. We had our AGM in December,
Hmm.
which was because it was our first AGM since being set up as a company. So that was more of a kind of an introduction to Villa and Proud in terms of people finally being able to get in front of us and have conversations with us and network. And yeah, it's been really good. And we've got Mike that's just come on board as our events officer. He started on the day of that AGM in December, and he's got loads of plans for the new season. He's working with Villa. He's working with various places across the city, and it's just really starting to grow into that kind of in-person social environment. And yeah, hopefully we can just make sure that people on match days and on other days just feel like they've got a network and they've got people that they can be their authentic selves with and they can socialize with regularly. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, going to football matches myself over the last few years, I've started to see more representation of LGBTQ plus supporters. But how kind of welcoming would you say football is to members of that community?
I think we're a lot better than we were. I
Yeah,
think we've made some great strides in the past kind of 20 odd years, and beyond. But I think there's still a long way to go. I
yeah.
think in terms of on the pitch, I think in terms of fans and in stadiums, I think that's probably where it's a funny one because you ask most football fans, and most football fans will be fairly on board as society generally is, anyway these days.
Mm.
But you do still get homophobic chanting, you do still get incidents, obviously, and there's not many players that are feeling comfortable to be open in the higher levels of the game. So there's still a way to go in that aspect. But yeah, to be honest, people generally are pretty on board, but we do obviously still face some challenges. And
Mm.
I think the biggest thing for us at the minute is, although things are better than they have been in the past, we have seen increases in the last couple of years of reports of homophobia, racism, and other kind of hate crimes. And and generally we hear from quite a lot of members that they wouldn't feel safe at games necessarily
Yeah.
without our support. And to be honest, it's something I can sympathise with because I wouldn't, and I know Mike has said the same on a podcast recently, and I wouldn't hold hands with my partner at
Yeah.
a football match because it's just not something that I'd feel comfortable doing. So that's kind of what we're trying to change, really.
Yeah, I mean, how important do you think it is to have something like Villa and Proud, and let's say like the Rainbow Laces campaign that was big recently. Just I guess as a form of representation, how important are groups like that?
Yeah, I think Villa and Proud and our kind of similar groups across the country are really important for just providing that network, just making sure that people don't feel alone. People
Hmm.
have got that support. I know Sam quite likes to describe us as that kind of armor. So if you feel like you're vulnerable, you've got that protection around you that actually, no, you're not on your own in these circumstances, and there are places that you can go and people you can talk to.
Yeah.
And I think the campaigns that they have been kind of growing around football and the wider sporting world really have been really powerful. But I think Rainbow Laces is one that divides opinion slightly because the visibility is brilliant, but it is quite often just visibility, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's not enough.
Sure.
And it's what the clubs do to support beyond Rainbow Laces. What they do to support networks like ourselves for helping fund projects or helping just spread the message and actually have that tangible impact rather than purely a visible one.
Sure. And, in May this year, there was a bit of a milestone really in football where the Blackpool player, Jake Daniels, he came out. He was the first male active professional footballer in the UK to do so. Um, how big a moment was that for you as an LGBTQ plus supporter?
Yeah, it's massive because it really does highlight the development that we've seen and the growth that we've seen in inclusivity and support for people's differences in the sport. And I think the fact that he's such a young footballer and
Yeah.
coming out at such a young age is quite powerful in itself. And I think it says a lot about kind of the next generation coming through as well.
Mm, yeah.
Um, I think there's kind of the twofold thing of it is a shame that it has to be such a big deal because, it's just we just want people to be able to live their lives and live authentically without it being such a big issue. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, it was such a powerful gesture, and it's probably hopefully will start a bit of a domino effect of people feeling like they're able to be comfortable and end that kind of media speculation that you see from some of the tabloids and things like that,
Yeah.
and start turning it into something just positive and just be able to build that community and people realize that it's not just fans, it's players, it's staff, it's everybody. There's people of all various different backgrounds, various different sexualities, gender identities in every aspect of life, and I think it was a really powerful moment.
Yeah, and for supporters who are watching this now and might want to get involved with Villa and Proud, how exactly could they do that?
Yeah, so if you go to villaandproud.co.uk, we've got our membership page, and you can see all the kind of things that we do and the campaigns we take, and you can sign up to be a member, and it is free. And it just puts you on our mailing list. It gets you involved, so you can get onto our WhatsApp groups. You can kind of start getting involved in that network and start communicating with other fans, getting involved in events. And if you just want to see what we're up to, you can follow us on social media. We've got Twitter, it's just at Villa and Proud. We've got Instagram too, as well as Facebook. So there's loads of ways you can kind of contact us and contacting myself or any of the other committee members as well. And you don't have to be massively out there and be overly comfortable in yourself and want to be bold and put yourself forward to have to get involved. I think that's something that people maybe worry about is, if I join, will I be labeling myself and putting
Hmm.
myself out there? But there are people who just you can have any form of involvement with what we do, or even if you want to be anonymous, if you just want to have someone to talk to, there's all various aspects of the ways we can help you, whatever you want to do, and yeah, I'd massively recommend it. For me personally, it's made such a huge difference getting involved.
Yeah, I'd strongly recommend following Villa and Proud on their following the website and following them on social media. Just because for those who haven't or aren't too aware, it's so well done and looks great as well. But also, I guess sort of looking ahead and going forward, what more would you like to see football do, or players, clubs, even allied fans? What more would you like to see happen within football to make it a more inclusive and safer space for LGBTQ plus supporters?
I think it's kind of there's the aspect of carrying on with what we're doing and pushing these campaigns and really stamping down that fact that homophobia, transphobia is not acceptable in our sport. But at the same time, it's that positive reinforcement kind of thing. It's that, keep getting involved with these networks, keep supporting LGBTQ plus fans, keep supporting the players, keep supporting staff members, and just showing that, what, football, we really don't care that you might be perceived as different, that actually football is there for all of us and it's everyone's game. And I think there's so many different aspects of how they can do that, but it's just all about visibility and support and tangible support and just helping us in every way they can.
So, Tom, you are an absolutely huge Aston Villa fan. I can tell that just from your social media. You are a really great fan to follow on there. You have some interesting thoughts on Villa and how we're doing in the table. So I guess looking back on the weekend on the game against Bournemouth, what did you make of the opening day of the season?
I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was disappointing, wasn't it? I
Yeah,
think I'd be probably look a bit deluded if I tried to put a positive spin on it, really. But
yeah,
yeah, I'm not really sure. I was disappointed to see, after all the progress that we kind of hear about in the preseason, give us a good preseason. We'll bring in these top new players and we'll work on the shape, work on the tactics. And I was thinking, we're going to come back really strong here against the
yeah.
newly promoted side. It's not going to be easy. They're physical, but we've got the quality to outdo them. But yeah, it just didn't happen on the day. I'm not going to join the kind of small group that started calling for the manager's head on day one, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it does need to improve for sure.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, obviously, we talked about it on our podcast, on a previous episode. But it was certainly. I wasn't expecting it to be a game where we couldn't create a single chance, and we're just kind of lumping it along and kind of hoping for the best. Really, it was pretty surreal to watch. But something else that's kind of caught the eye a bit is the Tyrone Mings um, situation.
Yeah.
Stephen Gerrard made a couple of comments that have proven very controversial among us all, really, about Mings having to look him in the eye and say he's ready to play. What do you make of the Mings situation yourself at the moment?
It's a tough one. I really don't know what to think. Because to start with, obviously there was the talk of him having a bit of a niggle, not
Yeah.
being quite fully fit for the first game, and I thought, you might not start that game. That wasn't a particular surprise to see that he didn't start.
Mm.
Because I was envisaging that Mings and Carlos was going to be the first choice partnership for the season. Um, and then yeah, these comments they're interesting. I'm not sure I've taken them quite how some fans have. I think when I've listened to the full interview,
Hmm.
there's definitely an element of, I could perceive it to say that, he's not fully fit, he's not fully ready. When he knows that he is, I'll give him a chance.
Yeah,
But it
sure.
was that idea of, when he looks me in the eye and tells me he's ready, that it's just a little bit toxic, kind of starting to feel a little bit toxic there. I'm not really sure how to even put that into words. Like, it's just a little niggling feeling I've got that there's
Mm.
something between them that maybe isn't quite right, which really would be a concern for me because he's such a big figure in the dressing room, whatever you think of him on the pitch.
Yeah, completely. He's got there is a lot of affection there, I think, for him, considering that when he joined, it's just generally been an upward trajectory ever since. He joined midway through our time in the championship, our final season in the championship, and a big part of how we came up and stayed up, really. And he's been such a great representative of Villa on and off the pitch. I guess those seeing a comment like that, whether it was meant in the kind of the harsher light that perhaps a few of us have sort of taken it in, it still rankles a little bit in a way that I think we'd rather not have at the club. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes forward, really, because we've got Everton at the weekend, and we're going to have to change something up. Do you think there's a chance Mings comes back into the starting lineup against Everton?
I mean, I'd like to think so. And I think if that was to happen, and we were to get a result as well, hopefully,
Mm,
it probably puts a lot of fears to bed quite quickly. Because I think after a defeat, you then start to see fans overthinking, and we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it too. You see that you've got Gilbert and Traore in the bomb squad, so to speak. I suppose with the youth team, you've got the captain's not been picked, or he's been stripped of the captaincy, and then dropped, and people then see us, not perform on the pitch as well. And I know that it's quite easy to put two and two together and maybe get five. I don't know,
mm,
but yeah, I think if he starts, if we get a good result, I think that'd be really good. It would really change. It would really change the whole perspective. I think at the start of the season, but I think it needs a performance as well. I don't think a result would be enough on its own unless it's backed with a
mm.
performance to really win people over. Because yeah, it seems crazy after going undefeated all season that it seems so negative, all pre-season, sorry, that it feels so negative at the start. But I think some of that is down to perhaps performances.
I think yeah. I think the Bournemouth performance was just so below what we were expecting that
Yeah.
I think it's kind of shocked a lot of us. I think, and left us wondering just what's going to happen this season. Last time we beat Bournemouth on the opening day of the season when they came up, we proceeded to go and get relegated. So hopefully it's the reverse this time. We go on and win the league. We're only 3 points behind Man City, one behind Liverpool. We dare to dream. But something I'm interested in about Everton actually is how I wonder if there's going to be a bit of a. Oh, I don't want to say they're going to be a bit like what Burnley were, but they do have some very big defenders now. Tarkovsky, Connor Cody's come in. I think Yeremini just got injured, and Ben Godfrey just got injured as well this weekend. So I assume it'd be Michael Keane if there's a back three, potentially a back five, which they had against Chelsea. I wouldn't have thought they'd play with a back five at Villa like they did against Chelsea, but maybe they will. In which case, yeah, that could be a. I could see a scenario in which it's kind of like we can't really create many chances, and then they get a set piece, and we haven't been defending set pieces recently very well, and yeah, things don't go too well. But I don't know how do you think it will go against Everton? Are you hopeful?
I mean, I really don't know at the minute.
Yeah,
I've been like it for the last couple of years, though. You don't know. One day you beat Liverpool 7-2, and you think, you know what, we're unbeatable now, and we're going to
yeah,
absolutely smash this bottom six team, and then you lose to them. But
yeah,
I don't know if you're Everton, you're looking at the Bournemouth game, and you might play a back five. You might just think, you know what, they're not going to create. We can get them on the counter or get them with a set piece. Then
yeah.
they're not going to be able to break us down. And I think the whole result will kind of hinge on who scores first. If we score first and force them out a bit, we could score three or four, maybe.
Mm.
Maybe that's a bit optimistic. I don't know, but if we go 1-0 down, I would worry. I'm not sure what the stats are, but I don't feel like we've come back from behind very often, if at all, recently.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first goal is going to be crucial, I think.
Yeah, I'm much more reticent about this game than I was. I mean, we do have a good recent record against Everton, so and we owe them revenge for how they treated Anwar El Ghazi on loan last season. We
Yeah,
will never
definitely.
forget. Um, but here's a question I want to ask you actually, and I ask this to quite a lot of guests who come on the show. Who is your favourite Aston Villa player of
Cool.
all
Right
time?
now,
Of all
of
time,
all time.
yeah,
Okay. Cool. That is a difficult one, because growing up it was always Gabby, but then it went a bit sour, and
yeah,
yeah, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with saying that anymore.
yeah.
And to be honest, and again, Grealish, but well, I know some fans will not like that at the minute, but I'm kind of over that. I had a bit of a spell of being annoyed, and that players move on, and I think in the next few years we'll probably look back at that time really fondly.
Yeah,
And yeah, to
yeah.
be honest, Tyrone Mings as well's up there in the last couple of years. But then I think back to yeah, Ashley Young's, Benteke, um, Melberg.
Mm.
There's players there. I'm not sure I could even pick one. That's it's a real cop out answer, but
Yeah.
yeah, for such a poor kind of era, I've managed to
Yeah.
pluck quite a few players out there.
It sounds like you could tell the generational difference because I mean, I started following Villa in '92, so I managed to just get in an era where there was still a little bit of success. First league season I ever saw Villa was where we came second in the Premier League to Man United, and it was probably the only year I could ever have been accused of being a glory supporter. So yeah, and then obviously I saw us win the League Cup a couple of times. But I think yeah, favorite player for me. I mean, I've got to be honest. I don't think I've ever felt such a love for a footballer as I have for Jack Grealish when he was at Villa. It was I always would say to people like, "He is my son." I guess him from being from Solihull, very similar, schools and background and all that. So I don't know. It was very easy to relate to him, I think, as a lifelong Villa fan. But elsewhere, it'd probably have to be Dwight York growing up for me in the '90s. Um, and that was also heartbreak. I remember
Yeah.
him going to Man United, and I remember I couldn't speak on the day that he left, and my mom had to take me for a McDonald's Happy Meal, and I think that was an indication for me my first ever experience of heartbreak. And I didn't have heartbreak again until I got to uni, like 5, 6 years later. I was like, oh, that's what that was, right? Okay. So yeah. Um, but Tom, like I said earlier, you're really great to follow online, and I really value your opinions on particularly on Twitter about what you say about Villa, and obviously Villa and Proud as well. But where can if people want to find you, where can they find you online?
Yeah, the main social media that I kind of have publicly is Twitter. So that's at TomC2312 underscore AVFC, which is a bit of a mouthful. I probably need to update that. But yeah, so if you can find me on there and you can give me a follow, and I'm more than happy to interact, whether that's about Villa and Proud, or any other thing we may have in common. But yeah,
Mm.
um, yeah, I'm always there.
And this season, how do you think it's going to go? We're one game in, but we're 1 point behind Liverpool. How do you think the season's going to go?
Yeah, I'm gonna pretend the weekend didn't happen because I think it's quite easy to cloud the judgment. So
Mm.
I'd said before about ninth, so I'm going to stick with that. I reckon top half. I'd like to see a cup run as well. I think Europe's a bit of a stretch,
Mhm.
um, probably another year or two. But yeah, top half of what was that? The highest finish that would be in over a decade. So I wouldn't complain about that.
Yeah, same here.